Yes? What would you like to do next? We are currently attentive of 3 halfling settlements where suspicious big folk have been sighted. Furtherhill, McHale Dolving, and Halfington. Go to each of these locations and discover what you can about the strangers there. Then, report back. If you have trouble locating them, try the innkeeper in each town. It's likely to be all they talk about anyway. We'll discuss your payment in larger detail when you return.
Do you know how the orcs came to be?
Yes. Do I care? Not right now. I have important work to do. Please do not disturb me.
Now some say the Shire may be overrun one day. Bah, I say. The Shire will remain as peaceful for my children as it was for my parents.
You look like the type that would head off in one of those adventures. Ugh, nasty things in my opinion. I hope you haven't come here to start any trouble. If you're looking for those of a strange nature, I'm afraid you just missed them. 2 of them, from Bray by their looks. Up to no good, if you ask me. They just stepped outside before you came in. Doubt they've gotten far since.
You don't seem to understand, Mr.
I hope you haven't come here to start
Tomatoes
any
just
trouble.
aren't worth what you've listed. They're worth what my friend here says they are. And what is that anyway, Barry? Judging by the ripeness, I'd say they couldn't be worth more than 2 gold each.
2 of each? I couldn't.
Oh, but you will, Mr. Lonesmith. What'd you think you were selling? A batch of perfect tomatoes? These are far from it.
Alright, it's a deal. Just take what you need and be gone.
Don't be in such a hurry to see us off. You should expect many similar transactions in the future. What's this about? Why would I care if you did? It was just an honest business transaction. The little fella agreed to the terms, didn't he? It's not as if we forced anything out of him. What's it matter to you anyway? We didn't come after your stock, did we? You should stop sticking your nose where it doesn't belong. Someone might cut it off. Are you threatening me?
Wait, Will. Remember what the master said. There'll be another time.
Yes, I'm well aware of what he said. Alright, outsider. Consider yourself lucky. We'll do what you say this time, but I'd be more careful about whose business you interfere with in the future. You may not be as fortunate. Hey, Mr. Low himself. This fella here has a problem with our arrangement. Said we should give you the merchandise back.
No, I don't want them back. Just keep them. It was a fair trade. Now let that be the end of it. Why are you here, if I might ask?
It'd appear all your vigilance was for nothing. We went after all, outsider.
Yeah?
Yes. Care to look at my wares? You won't be disappointed, my friend. Don't forget to tell your friends, if you haven't. You look like the type that would head off in one of those adventures. There was an half-orc in town about a week ago. He was looking to buy some arrows off a few of the merchants here, but he demanded an unreasonably low price for them. After being denied, word is he headed north into the Brinbale Wood. I guess he's moved on from there. But if you're looking for him, that might be a good place to start. Don't forget to tell your friends. Pardon my suspicions, but it seems every time one of you big folks shows up, bad things follow.
What's this about?
Keep your voice down. I'm hunting deer, and they're skittish enough without you yelling.
People need to be fed, and I need to be paid. Doesn't get much simpler than that. That's none of your business. My boss doesn't like to be known by outside folk, and he doesn't like we talk to outside folk about him. Trust me, stranger. This is one topic better left off alone. You're meddling in affairs you don't understand, outsider. It'd be best if you just forget everything that was said here, if you know what's good for you. Do I know you?
What do you want? You have a good one.
Yeah?
Keep your voice down. I'm hunting deer, and they're skittish enough without you yelling.
People need to be fed, and I need to be paid. My boss doesn't like... Trust me, stranger. This is one topic better left off alone. You're meddling in affairs you don't understand, outsider. It'd be best if you just forget everything that was said here, if you know what's good for you.
Yes, big folk. I haven't eaten a thing in at least 3 hours. I don't think I'll make it. You can bet by the hair on your toes I have. Right here in this inn of mine. Don't suppose you've overheard that big folk in the corner, have you? He's been in here all week, drinking the good stuff and not paying for it. Keeps yammering on about nonsense, too. Different times are coming, new leadership, fair distribution of goods. That typical doomsday stuff. I'd ask him to leave, but I dare not confront a fella like him. Goodbye.
What's this about? Huh? No. No, you can't be one of them. Not here. Not now. Well, then what'd you do this time? Mop up with the floor with it, or give it to some other poor sap? Suppose it matters little now. Just get me another. Wait a minute. Say, that is strange. What did I order anyway? What? Have you got anything in that hollow head of yours? I didn't order that. Wait. Yes. Yes, I did. What's it about? No. And it's getting awfully late for jokes. Besides, to help me you'd have to have about 200 gold tucked away in those pockets, and the will to part with it. Nobody would do that for a drunken coward like me. Well, if you gotta know, I work for a man. Okay, I worked for him. Dark and shrouded was he. I never quite saw his face or much anything else. He wanted me to deliver a shipment of supplies he'd brought from one of the locals. He said it was just some barley and wheat, but from the weight I would've guessed it was something like stone or lumber. Maybe weapons. Doesn't pay to be asking what you're transporting though. Not that I would've dared to anyway. Seemed like he'd rather keep his business to his own. That's not to say I wasn't half tempted to take a peek inside one of those crates. I didn't, of course, but I couldn't help feeling a mite bit curious. All the more so when my carriage was ransacked by thieves on the road to Tuckburg. Pitch black it was. Didn't see a thing besides the cloak of one of them heading off the road with swift feet. But when I stopped to check the load, I discovered I'd been robbed. Can't say. When I finally built up the courage to inform him he was nowhere to be found. Instead, there was another man. An associate of his, as he explained. Anyway, so the man was very straight to the point. Said I needed to compensate their loss. Pay him back for everything that was stolen. I tried to explain that I didn't have that kind of coin, but then he threatened to kill me. From there, I didn't know what to do. So I made up a story about heading for Doland, but instead I just came here to drink until I think of something. That's my story. Now, about that deal we had. You're really serious? You don't even know me. I don't know what to say. Thank you. Thank you, stranger. Goodbye, innkeeper. Goodbye, ale. Goodbye, cheap innkeeper's ale.
What about your tab? You still have to pay for those drinks. Ugh, big folk. Pardon my suspicions, but it seems every time one of you big folk shows up, bad things follow.
I see you've returned. What did you discover? This is no coincidence, then. Thank you for this information, Outlander. Here is your reward. How are you holding up?
Not too bad, given what I've been through today. I had a deadly duel with the biggest mouse you could have ever imagined. Luckily, I managed to slit his neck before he got away with all my cheese. And don't even get me started on the door jamming dilemma I had to overcome.
I would appreciate it if you took these talks seriously.
Huh? Maybe later, alright. I prefer to focus on the present or future for the moment.
Is there something you need? What are the specifics? We'll talk more about it later, alright? That should be enough for now. I'll have one of the others pick up the last assignment. You've been of much help. I wonder if you feel ready for more serious work. Well, there's only one way to find out. Don't worry, your responsibilities are still relatively small. We wouldn't place the fate of these lands in the hands of a stranger, after all. Very well. Take some time to get yourself properly rested, and return to me when you're ready for more work. Be brief. With patience, and a full understanding of what we're dealing with. What can be gained if we rush headstrong into battle with a force of which we do not know their true motivation? Innocents would be killed. Misunderstandings would become bloody, and our judgment between good and evil would fade. That is not something I will permit of my rangers, no matter how much they plead for it. I understand their reasoning, but they are young for the Nemorians, and they're eager to strike down evil as soon as it shows. It's noble. I would have taken a similar stance in my younger years. However, age teaches restraint, and there are some precautions that must be taken. Suspicions must be confirmed, and confirmations must be double-checked. If these steps are skipped, we are no better than orcs. How do you discern evil from good at infancy? Would you end something's life before it had the chance to prove itself? Before its true colors had been revealed? Be ever careful who it is you judge, and especially in how quickly you do so. With patience. What in it? That is not something I will permit of my rangers, no matter how much they plead for it. I wasn't granted the rank of captain just because of my good looks, you know. Was there something else? What are the specifics? Why? These lands used to be a part of the ancient kingdom of Arnthor. Our ancestors once laid claim to all you see here. It is essential that we continue to watch over the people who used to be our subjects, and to keep evil from entering our former homeland. Should you find yourself venturing beyond the Shire's borders, you will find that other rangers wander many of those lands with similar objectives. But for me, it is more than obligation. Halflings aren't warriors, nor counted among the very wise for that matter. Yet still, there's something here that cannot be acquired by might or scholarship. Something the likes of which you will not find so easily elsewhere in Middle Nirn today. Hope. Perhaps the last this world will ever see. No. No, we cannot. You must forgive them. Unfortunately, they are peaceful folk. And they do mean well. Despite what foul word, I'm glad to see you're capable of empathy. That is a fine trait for someone devoted to protecting others. Even if only doing... What are the specifics? That is because they are young. For Nanemorians, that is. We age at a third the rate of a normal man, and so we appear younger than we actually are. But when Hailbard took the senior rangers east to war with the orcs, some of the younger, less experienced were encouraged to watch over the Shire. And thus, the additions of Fordant and Tinruth completed the formation of our current company. We will keep this land undefiled until the others return. We may continue to guard the Shire, or they will find a new task for us elsewhere. In that case, we are likely to disband. But this is all assuming their mission is successful. In either case, I would not worry about it if I were you. There are plenty of current matters to hold our attention for the moment. Morthir. That was his name. So it was when he still belonged to it. I'm sorry. You asked about my friend's name earlier, and that was it. It was Morthir. But anyway, I suppose you want to hear another adventure I had in my early years, am I right? Of course I am. You asked after all. Nearly a decade after the last incident, Morthir and I grew to rangerhood. We spent the following years wandering Middle Nirn in search of people to protect and towns to watch over. Usual ranger duties assigned to the younger of our race. Not long after we received word that the sword of a legendary ranger captain had been resting in a cave just south of our camp. The blade, Cirist, as it was called, was known for the great many deeds it performed in battle, and had become a beacon of hope for my people. So, I did what any young ranger would have done. No, actually, I pushed Morthir into the cave first. There was a reason that sword had rested there as long as it did, and I wasn't going to be the first to find out why. I wouldn't have done it if I had thought him in danger. But I was still young then, and admittedly my sense of good judgment had not yet developed. I ran into the cave myself shortly afterward, and immediately I regretted my previous decision. There was a hole not too far in, but it was covered in shadow and neither of us saw it. There's no telling how long I spent falling through the air. It felt like forever. And in the darkness, I couldn't see a thing. However, eventually, I landed down. Not on rock, gravel, or water, mind you, but on something tacky. A spider's web. We cut ourselves down only to land upon another, and so on until we fell to the ground. But by that time, movement could be heard above us, coming quickly and without caution. When spider webs are present, the spiders themselves are not far behind. Pitch black it still was, and we could not tell how near they were, but we knew they were coming close. So, I did what any young ranger would at that point. We ran. And whether by chance or the will of a higher power, we found an exit and took refuge in the daylight. The few spiders who'd found courage enough to pursue us were cut down easily. But nevertheless, that was the last time I attempted such foolishness. Serious? Of course I did. What do you think I have strapped to my back? It was lying in the dirt when we cut ourselves from the webs. I managed to grab it just seconds before our quick escape. But alas, we can talk more about this later. The hour is late, and much work still needs doing. Yep.
Did you say something?
Speak your piece.
Yes? Swiftly. Dark forces surround us from every direction. Are we to sit back while their armies rally, while each stage in their master plan unfolds? We would all be killed. Rangers, halflings, outlanders, it wouldn't matter. To hold off our actions until after their first move would be to imply we will survive it. But I ask you, what if we don't? Will not the Shire be in even greater peril when the Rangers have been destroyed? Ah, well that proves not everyone's a complete fool. I'm glad to hear you agree with my approach to this coming danger. With Thorman's stubborn ways, I think I'll need all the support I can get. Not at all. What's on your mind? Last time you asked what became of my father, and I was reluctant to reply. But, alas, I suppose I owe you an answer. He came home late one night from out in the field, his cloak dripping from the onslaught of rain outside, and the bottom of his boots worn thin from the great distance traveled afoot. This event wasn't abnormal. Sometimes he'd be gone for weeks without notice, and then show up in the dead of night while I was still asleep. His ranger work kept him occupied like that. I'll never forget this night in particular, though. He came in like he always did, calm, attentive, and curious on my well-being. However, this time something was off, I could tell, but I didn't make mention of it. It was like something outside bothered him. As if he couldn't wait, he said it was time for the final lesson he could teach, the last doctrine that separates average men from rangers, but I never found out what he was talking about. Orcs. They raided before we could manage to defend ourselves. Amidst the chaos, I must have fallen unconscious. Still not sure how or why, just that I did. Probably by an orc club or a loose piece of rubble. When I came to, my father had been slain. A scimitar cut right across his back and multiple arrows scattered from his right shoulder to left thigh. At least he went out fighting, I suppose. He always said he would. There's no need to apologize. That was a long time ago. Through time, things change, and you find it easier to move on from the things you never thought you'd part with. But I do not mean to trouble you with my story any longer. There is plenty to accomplish, and unless you have something else to say, I'd like to return to my duties. Sure. Hello. Not at all. What's on your mind? Back for more, eh? I suspected you would. Here, give this a run through. No. That's over. Yes? Not at all. What's on your mind? Yup.
Hello? Yeah?
Offensively. We need to quickly drive away the evil that threatens the security of the Shire. Evil men with evil intentions cannot refrain from committing evil deeds. Why wait until it's too late? We should strike before innocents are harmed. Bring battle to those ruffian scum before they're ready. Probably for the best. Delicate matters like this should be left for only true rangers to decide anyway.
I suppose you're wondering what happened to my brother then. That's what you asked last time. But I didn't want to say anything about it. I suppose I deserve an answer now, though. It wasn't that long ago. Not even a full year when my uncle left to join Halbard's company. Our training was still very much incomplete at the time of his leaving, so, to compensate, he told us to seek out the Chief Ranger of the Shire. His chief foreman was renowned for turning young Nunamori novices into fully capable and experienced rangers. So we left to finish our training under his guidance.
Along our way here, we took a brief stop at Bray to rest our feet and eat our fill. It was too long, in my opinion. While we're in the tavern, some blonde started up a long chat with a Donan. I knew she was trouble from the beginning, but did my brother listen? No! He had to impress her with the stories of his ranger training and all the battles he had. Won. Well, when I woke up the next morning, both my brother and that swine were gone. Years of growing up together, fighting and playing, training and watching, and then he just leaves like that, with a girl he hardly even knew. What kind of brother would do that? You take his side? He abandoned me! There was absolutely no reason to do that! None!
I waited for him to return for weeks, but nothing ever changed. I was left alone with no idea how to proceed and still questioning the meaning of my predicament. Finally, I realized that there was only one thing left to do. I had to continue towards the Shire. By that time, I had waited nearly a month, and, well, it became apparent he wasn't coming back, no matter how much I wanted to believe it. And if you thought you had it bad when you arrived here, Foreman kept me on the doorstep for a solid week before he let me into the base. Apparently, my uncle forgot to mention that I was coming to the Shire, and they were only expecting my brother. It took longer still to convince them of my Nunamorian bloodline and skills with the blade. But that's about all I've got. I apologize if my backstory isn't an expansive one, but it's not exactly if I have a lot to tell. I'm still fairly young as Nunamorians go.
Yes?